What if the one who built everything, who dreamed beyond limits, finally opened his heart not to the world but to you? To my future wife, are you ready for this song? This isn't about success or fame. It's about love, vulnerability, and the one question even the strongest mind can't solve alone. Stay till the end, because this might change how you see love forever. Have you ever met someone who made you rethink everything you thought you knew about love, success, and what it means to actually live? Not just to exist, but to feel alive again? Sometimes, the mind can achieve incredible things, launch rockets, build cars, create systems that change the world, but still fail to understand the language of the heart. I've realized that intelligence alone can't solve loneliness. You can design the future, but without someone to share it with, even the stars feel empty. To my future wife, are you ready for this song? It's not just a question, it's a hope. Because love at its core is a song, imperfect, emotional, unpredictable. And it only works when two people decide to listen to each other, instead of trying to control the rhythm. I've spent much of my life chasing ideas, believing that purpose and achievement could fill the silence. But purpose without love feels like an unfinished circuit. It has energy, but nowhere to go. Love gives direction to that energy. It grounds the impossible. It reminds you that even the most logical mind needs something irrational, like affection, trust, or a quiet moment beside someone who believes in you when the world doesn't. Real connection isn't about grand gestures. It's in the tiny moments that don't make headlines, the late night talks, the shared laughter, the understanding silence. It's in knowing someone sees the parts of you that the world can't. The vulnerable, flawed, human parts, and still chooses to stay. We often think of strength as control, but the truth is, love teaches the opposite. It's about surrender, not in weakness, but in trust. Trust that being open won't break you. That someone can hold your truth without judging it. That maybe, just maybe, your heart was never meant to build walls, but bridges. If I've learned anything, it's that partnership is not about finding someone to complete you. It's about finding someone who expands you, who makes you more curious, more patient, more alive. The right person doesn't fit into your world, they help you build a new one. And maybe that's what evolution really means. Not just in science, but in spirit. Every time two people choose to grow together instead of apart, humanity takes a small step forward. We learn empathy. We learn forgiveness. We learn that progress isn't just about machines or technology. It's about emotional connection. So, to my future wife, wherever you are, I hope you're ready for this song. It's not perfect. Neither am I, but it's real. And I believe that somewhere between the silence and the melody, we'll find something worth building. A love that reminds both of us what being human truly means. Sometimes, love doesn't arrive with noise or fireworks. It shows up quietly, like a light turning on in a dark room you didn't realize you'd been sitting in for years. You don't plan for it, and you don't control it. You just feel it, and suddenly, everything that once seemed important feels small compared to the warmth of being truly seen. Love is the missing equation in human progress. We've learned how to build machines, program intelligence, and reach for other planets, but we still struggle to understand the simplest emotion, the need to belong. For all our brilliance, we forget that connection is what gives meaning to invention. Without love, even the greatest achievements lose their purpose. Because what's the point of building a future if you have no one to share it with? I think sometimes we confuse strength with distance. We tell ourselves we're focused, driven, unstoppable. But behind all that motion, there's often a quiet ache. The kind that appears late at night when the noise fades, and there's no one left to impress. It's in that silence you start to realize that success without connection feels like standing at the top of a mountain with no one beside you to see the view. Love doesn't weaken you. It humbles you. It strips away the illusion that you can control everything, that you don't need anyone. Because when someone truly reaches you, not your image, not your achievements, but the person beneath it all, it changes the way you see yourself. Suddenly, vulnerability becomes a kind of courage. It's no longer something to hide from, it's something to offer. The most powerful people I've met aren't the ones who dominate the world. They're the ones who allow themselves to be known. Who look at another person and say, "Here I am, imperfect, uncertain, but real." That's love at its core, the willingness to be seen and to see someone else just as clearly. When two people do that, the world softens. It slows down. You start to realize that progress isn't about how fast we move forward, but about how deeply we understand each other along the way. We often try to measure love like we measure success, by what it gives us, by how much it grows, by whether it lasts. But love isn't something you win or lose, it's something you learn. It teaches you patience, empathy, forgiveness, things no algorithm can replicate. It reminds you that even the most brilliant mind still needs a place to rest, a voice to listen to, a heart that beats in rhythm with its own. Maybe that's why love feels so rare in a world obsessed with control. It asks us to do the one thing we resist the most, to let go, to trust that being open won't destroy us, that caring deeply doesn't make us weak. When you finally let yourself love without armor, you discover a strength that no achievement could ever give. So maybe the real measure of evolution isn't how far we've gone, but how much we've learned to feel. Every time we choose compassion over ego, Understanding over pride, connection over isolation. We take a step forward as a species. We become more human. Because in the end, it's not the rockets, or the empires, or the endless noise of progress that defines us. It's the quiet moment when one person looks at another and says, I see you, I choose you, and I'm not afraid to love you. That's the moment where everything, technology, ambition, the future itself finally finds its meaning. Have you ever felt that strange ache? The one that comes when you've achieved so much, yet something inside you still feels incomplete. You can have everything you once dreamed of, and still lie awake at night wondering why it doesn't feel like enough. That's when you start to understand, the real courage in life isn't building something powerful. It's allowing yourself to be known, completely and honestly, by another human being. The courage to connect is the courage to be seen without control, without performance, without the mask. Most of us spend years mastering how to appear strong, how to seem unshakable. But love asks for something entirely different. It asks for truth. It asks you to drop the armor, to show the parts of yourself that aren't perfect. The fears, the doubts, the quiet insecurities you keep hidden even from yourself. That's where real connection begins. It's easy to stand on a stage and talk about vision or purpose. It's much harder to sit across from someone and let them see your heart, unedited, uncertain, and raw. But that's what love demands. It's not about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who gives you the courage to stop pretending you're already complete. There's a certain beauty in that vulnerability. It's not weakness. It's strength in its purest form. When you allow someone close enough to see your flaws, you're not losing control. You're gaining freedom. Freedom from the performance of perfection. Freedom from the fear of being misunderstood. You're saying, this is me. Not the version the world expects, just me. And when someone looks at you in that moment and stays, that's love. Not the kind that fades when life gets messy, but the kind that holds you steady when everything else falls apart. Love like that doesn't demand that you change, it invites you to grow. It doesn't compete with your purpose, it expands it. Because when two people trust each other deeply, they don't just share emotions, they share energy. They build something stronger than either could have built alone. Think about it, the greatest discoveries, the boldest ideas, even the moments of quiet clarity in your life, often come when you feel safe enough to be yourself. That safety, that emotional freedom, comes from connection. From knowing that someone is on your side, not because of what you can do, but because of who you are. The courage to connect isn't about finding the right person. It's about becoming ready for them. It's about learning to show up as yourself with all your humanity. Because when you do, you stop searching for perfect love and start experiencing real love. The kind that's messy, unpredictable, but deeply alive. We spend so much time building walls to protect ourselves from pain. But those same walls also keep out the love we need most. So maybe real courage is learning to open the door again. To say, yes, I've been hurt before, but I'm still here. I'm still willing to love. That's how human connection reshapes the world, one open heart at a time. It's not in the grand gestures or perfect moments, but in the quiet decision to let someone in, again and again, even when it's hard. Because the truth is, no amount of success can fill the space that only love was meant to hold, and no kind of strength will ever compare to the courage it takes to simply say, I trust you. Sometimes, the smartest thing you can ever do is to let someone touch your heart instead of your mind, because love isn't a theory you can solve. It's a truth you have to feel. And in the quiet space between two people who truly understand each other, you find something more powerful than logic, emotional intelligence. We often think being intelligent means knowing how to fix things, how to plan ahead, how to stay in control. But emotional intelligence asks for something softer. It asks us to listen, to care, to understand without needing to win. It's the kind of wisdom that doesn't shout, it listens, it notices, it forgives. In a world that celebrates speed, success, and results, emotional intelligence feels almost invisible. It doesn't trend, it doesn't make noise, but it's what keeps relationships alive. Without it, communication becomes defense. Conversations turn into competition, and love slowly turns into misunderstanding. To love someone deeply, you need more than passion or attraction. You need awareness. You need to see the moments when they're quiet not because they're fine, but because they're overwhelmed. You need to understand when to speak, and when to simply hold their hand in silence. That's emotional intelligence, the ability to read what isn't said, to care for someone without needing to be right, to choose peace over pride. And it's not just about romantic love. It's about every connection you have, your family, your friends, even yourself. Emotional intelligence is what keeps you human when life gets chaotic. It teaches you how to pause before reacting, how to forgive without forgetting who you are, and how to love without losing yourself. We sometimes underestimate how much strength it takes to stay kind, to stay patient, to stay gentle when life feels heavy. But that's the kind of strength emotional intelligence builds, quiet, steady, unshakable. It's what helps two people navigate storms without destroying each other. It's what makes love last when the excitement fades. When you truly understand someone, when you feel their emotions as if they were your own, something inside you changes. You stop seeing love as possession and start seeing it as partnership. You begin to realize that connection isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone real and choosing to understand them every day. Emotional intelligence is the bridge between the mind and the heart. It's the reason a simple, "I understand," can mean more than 1,000 apologies. It's the reason silence can feel safe instead of distant. It's why love, when rooted in empathy, doesn't just survive, it grows stronger through every challenge. And maybe that's what makes us truly evolved. Not our inventions, not our technology, not our ability to reach the stars, but our ability to reach each other. To love with understanding, to speak with compassion, and to listen like it matters. Because in the end, the most intelligent thing we can ever do is to care. So, when you love, don't just use your heart, use your awareness, see the emotion behind the words, feel the intention behind the silence. Love not to be understood, but to understand. That's where the real magic of connection begins. That's where love stops being a feeling, and becomes something greater, something human. There's a kind of silence that only comes when someone truly understands you. It's not empty, it's full of peace, of safety, of belonging. It's in that silence you realize that the greatest strength doesn't come from being admired, but from being understood. Being understood is one of the rarest gifts in life. You can have a crowd that cheers for you, a world that praises you. But if no one sees the person behind it all, it feels like standing under a spotlight while your heart stays in the dark. Real connection is the light that reaches those hidden places. It doesn't need noise or validation, it needs presence. To be understood is to finally exhale after holding your breath for too long. It's when you don't have to explain every part of yourself, because someone already senses it. They notice the shift in your tone, the weight in your eyes, the silence between your words. And they just know. Not because you told them, but because they're listening with their heart. That kind of understanding doesn't happen often. It takes patience, attention, and a kind of love that chooses empathy over ego. It's built slowly, not by grand gestures, but by 1,000 quiet moments of awareness. When someone remembers what hurts you, when they celebrate the small things that matter to you, when they see the parts of you that even you sometimes forget, that's when love becomes more than a feeling. It becomes a mirror, one that reflects who you are at your most authentic. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, few are trying to see, we chase validation, but what we really crave is recognition. The kind that says, "I get you. You don't have to try so hard." That's what calms the chaos inside. Because love without understanding can still feel lonely. But understanding, even without words, feels like home. And maybe that's what true strength looks like. Not the ability to stand alone, but the courage to let someone in close enough to know you. The real you. It's easy to be admired for your achievements. It's harder to be loved for your truth. Yet when someone does, it changes everything. It makes you softer, more grounded, more whole. Being understood gives you space to rest, to stop performing, to stop proving, to simply be. And in that space, you start to remember who you are beneath the noise. You rediscover your gentleness, your curiosity, your capacity to love without fear. Because when someone understands you, they remind you that you're not too much or too little. You're exactly enough. So when you find that kind of connection, protect it. Nurture it. Because it's not common, and it's not replaceable. It's what gives meaning to everything else. The work, the dreams, the future. You can build 1,000 things in life, but if you have one person who truly understands your heart, you've already built something eternal. Understanding isn't glamorous. It doesn't sparkle or shout. But it's the quiet force that keeps love alive when words fall short. It's what turns loneliness into peace, ambition into balance, and two separate lives into one shared rhythm. That's the quiet strength of being understood. And it's one of the most beautiful things a human being can ever experience. Trust is the heartbeat of every lasting connection. Without it, love becomes fragile, like glass that looks beautiful in the light but cracks under pressure. With it, even the most uncertain paths begin to feel steady, because trust gives love the courage to grow beyond fear. Trust isn't built through promises or grand gestures. It's built through consistency. The small, quiet moments when someone chooses to show up again and again, even when it's inconvenient. It's when they listen without judgment, when they keep your secrets safe, when they believe in you even when you stop believing in yourself. Over time, those moments weave together into something unshakable. We often think of trust as something we give, but the truth is it's something we build, brick by brick, choice by choice. It's not about perfection. It's about honesty. It's saying, I may fail, I may make mistakes, but I'll be real with you. Because real love doesn't demand flawlessness. It asks for truth. And truth is what gives relationships their foundation. When there's trust, love can breathe. It doesn't need to control or question. It doesn't live in fear of being lost. It simply exists, free, open, alive. You can disagree, you can face storms, you can even break apart for a while. But if trust remains, love always finds its way back. Because trust is the gravity that pulls two hearts together, no matter how far they drift. But trust is also fragile. It's made of faith, and faith can be shaken. That's why it must be protected with intention. Every time you choose to tell the truth when lying would be easier, every time you choose to understand, instead of accuse, you're strengthening the bond. Trust doesn't mean never being hurt. It means believing that even after the hurt, healing is still possible. In love, trust feels like exhaling after holding your breath too long. It's the moment you realize you don't have to keep your guard up anymore. You can rest. You can be yourself without fear of being misunderstood or abandoned. That feeling, that calm, is what gives love its power. Because where there's trust, there's freedom. And where there's freedom, love thrives. The irony is, we spend so much time trying to protect ourselves from being hurt, that we often block the very thing that could heal us. To trust someone is to take a leap, to hand over the most fragile parts of yourself and believe they'll handle them with care. It's not a guarantee, it's a choice. And that choice is what makes love brave. If two people can build trust, they can survive anything. Distance, silence, misunderstandings, all of it. Because trust isn't just about believing someone won't hurt you. It's about believing that even if they do, they'll make it right. It's the faith that love can weather imperfection and still remain whole. So if you ever find someone who earns your trust, don't take it for granted. Protect it like oxygen. Because once it's gone, everything else struggles to survive. But when it's there, when two people trust each other completely, even the heaviest hearts become light. That's the quiet miracle of trust. It doesn't just make love possible, it makes love eternal. It turns fear into peace, distance into closeness, and uncertainty into something sacred. Because at its core, trust isn't just believing in another person, it's believing that together, you can create something unbreakable. Vulnerability has always been misunderstood. People see it as weakness, as the soft spot that makes you break. But the truth is, vulnerability is where real strength begins. It's the moment you stop pretending to be unshakable and start being real. It's the space where love actually has a chance to grow. We spend so much of our lives trying to be strong, guarded, and independent. We build walls to protect ourselves from rejection, disappointment, and loss. But those same walls also keep out the very thing we're longing for. Closeness, connection, the warmth of being known. Love can't reach you through armor. It only finds you when you take it off. To be vulnerable is to say, here I am. I don't have it all figured out. I'm scared, I'm hopeful, I'm human. It's letting someone see you in your truth. Not the version that wins admiration, but the one that trembles a little when life gets hard. That honesty, that openness is what gives love its depth. Because love without vulnerability is just performance. It looks pretty, but it's hollow inside. There's a quiet courage in saying, I need you. It doesn't mean you're dependent. It means you're honest enough to admit that connection matters to you. That you don't want to go through life numb or detached. Vulnerability isn't about losing control. It's about choosing trust. It's believing that even if someone could hurt you, they won't. And that faith, that leap, is one of the bravest things a human can do. The truth is, vulnerability changes how we love and how we're loved. When you open your heart, you give others permission to open theirs. You stop the endless game of pretending to be fine. Suddenly, conversations get real. Emotions get raw. You stop chasing perfect moments and start cherishing honest ones. The kind that make you cry a little, laugh a little, and remind you that you're alive. And yes, vulnerability sometimes leads to pain. You might give your heart to someone who doesn't know how to hold it. You might share your truth and be met with silence. But even then, being open isn't a mistake, because the pain of being real is still better than the emptiness of always pretending. Every time you allow yourself to feel deeply, you grow stronger, not harder, but wiser, softer, more human. In love, vulnerability is what transforms closeness into connection. It's what makes two people more than partners. It makes them safe places for each other. A love that welcomes vulnerability becomes a refuge, not a battlefield. You can stumble, fall apart, or lose your way, and still be met with understanding instead of judgment. That's where healing begins. So maybe strength isn't about never breaking. Maybe it's about breaking open and letting love find you there. Because love was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be real. And real love doesn't need you to be flawless. It just needs you to be honest. The quiet truth is, this vulnerability doesn't make you weak. It makes you unforgettable. It's the heartbeat of every meaningful connection, the foundation of every lasting bond, the light that turns pain into purpose. When you let yourself be seen, truly seen, you don't lose power. You discover it. Purpose without love is like a sky full of stars that you can't feel the warmth of. It looks beautiful, but it's cold. You can spend your entire life chasing goals, achieving milestones, breaking barriers, and still feel a quiet emptiness when the lights go out. Because success can fill your calendar, but only love fills your soul. For a long time, I thought purpose was everything. That meaning came from what you build, what you prove, what you achieve. And yes, those things matter. They give direction, they push humanity forward. But somewhere along the way, I learned that purpose without love feels hollow. You can change the world, but if you don't have someone to share it with, even victory feels lonely. Love doesn't replace purpose. It completes it. It gives your efforts emotion, your ambition humanity. It's what turns work into meaning and progress into legacy. Because love is what reminds you why you're building in the first place. Without it, everything you create becomes mechanical. But when love is present, when your purpose is fueled by care, empathy, and connection, it becomes something that truly lives. The truth is, love and purpose are not separate paths, they are the same road. Purpose drives what you do. Love shapes how you do it. It keeps you grounded when success tempts you to forget who you are. It gives your strength a softness, your focus a heart, because the goal isn't just to make life better, it's to make it beautiful for someone else too. Love gives meaning to sacrifice. It turns hard work into devotion. It's the reason you stay up late not because you have to, but because you care. It's the quiet thought that says, I'm not just doing this for me, I'm doing it for us. That's what makes effort feel alive. That's what turns the grind into something sacred. When love and purpose align, something powerful happens. You start to build not just for recognition, but for connection. You start to see that every invention, every dream, every creation is ultimately about people. About understanding them, helping them, moving them. Even the grandest ideas mean nothing if they don't touch a heart somewhere. And that's the truth we often overlook. Love is not a distraction from purpose. It's the source of it. The most inspired minds, the most world-changing visions, all come from people who care deeply. About others, about something greater than themselves. It's love that gives your purpose direction and soul. You can have the most brilliant plan, the sharpest mind, the biggest dreams. But without love, you'll always feel like something's missing. Because purpose gives you momentum, but love gives you reason. Purpose is what makes you wake up in the morning. Love is what makes it worth it. So if you ever find yourself torn between following your dreams or your heart, don't choose. Do both. Let love guide your purpose. Let it teach you how to build with compassion, lead with kindness, and create with meaning. Because in the end, the future doesn't belong to the smartest or the fastest. It belongs to those who build with love. That's how we evolve. That's how we make progress human. Because every great purpose begins with something simple. The desire to love and be loved in return. Love isn't ownership. It's not about holding someone tightly enough that they can't leave. It's about standing beside them with enough trust that they don't want to. Real partnership isn't built on possession. It's built on freedom, growth, and the quiet courage to let someone be fully themselves. When we love, our first instinct is to protect, to keep close, to hold on. But love that suffocates isn't love. It's fear disguised as care. True love doesn't ask you to shrink to fit inside someone else's comfort. It doesn't clip your wings or silence your voice. It celebrates your expansion. It's saying, I love you enough to let you become everything you're meant to be, even if it changes what we are. That's not easy. It takes strength to love without control, to support someone's evolution without feeling left behind. But that's what real partnership is: two people walking their own paths, growing in their own ways, yet always finding their way back to each other, not out of need, but out of choice. When love matures, it stops being about ownership and starts being about alignment. You stop trying to mold the other person and start learning from them instead. You begin to understand that love isn't about sameness, it's about harmony. You can have different dreams, different fears, different ways of seeing the world, and still be deeply connected. Because connection doesn't require control, it requires understanding. The most beautiful relationships are the ones where both people feel free. Free to speak their truth, free to make mistakes, free to grow. In that freedom, love breathes. It becomes lighter, stronger, more alive. You don't love to possess, you love to witness. To watch someone you care about evolve into their true self, and to know you had a small part in that transformation. When you let love evolve instead of trying to contain it, something magical happens. It deepens. You stop fearing change and start embracing it as part of your journey together. You begin to realize that growth doesn't pull people apart, it brings them closer, because it keeps love alive. The same two people who met years ago aren't the same today, and that's the point. Love isn't meant to stay still, it's meant to grow as you do. But to allow that kind of love, you need trust. In yourself, in your partner, in the process. You need to believe that letting someone be free doesn't mean losing them. It means loving them well enough that they always feel safe to return. That's the kind of bond that lasts, not because it's chained, but because it's chosen. When you love someone this way, you give them more than affection, you give them space. Space to dream, to fail, to become. And in that space, they